Hey, you're listening to the Give Back Podcast, a weekly podcast hosted by Give Something Back coaches, staff, alumni, and current students. Our mission is to support students from all backgrounds through the college journey. This season, we're focused on helping you thrive during your first semester at college, from your first day on campus all the way to winter break. Our fourth episode is called Time Management. In this episode, we'll discuss how to schedule yourself for success in college, how to manage unexpected circumstances on campus, and how to make the most of your downtime. As always, if you have any questions, give us a shout on Instagram, Facebook, or by email. Here are the time-coded sections for episode 4. Please feel free to jump around if you'd like, or you can listen all the way through. Enjoy!
So we're going to go around real quick and introduce ourselves. We have a new friend with us today on the podcast. So we'll start on this end.
I'm Shannon Labus, and I am from Illinois, and I am a student success coach.
Lydia Matlock, Chief of Operations for Give Something Back from Kansas.
I'm Chad Carr. I currently live here in New Jersey, and I work in the business office. I'm the chief of staff, but oversee the boring stuff, finances, HR, that kind of stuff.
I'm Kelsey Novak. I'm the program director for the Illinois office for Give Something Back.
Thank you. So here we are, episode 4. Today we're talking about time management. So we've discussed a lot about how to kind of get into college, how to make yourself more comfortable, how to find your resources on campus, how to stay safe on campus. And now we're going to talk about what seems like a boring topic, but it's not going to be. We're going to discuss how you manage that time. And this starts from really the transition, that summer before college, right? Like, how are you going to schedule yourself appropriately, all the way to how you're going to be able to participate in things on campus and still get to class and do everything else that you want to do. So in this panel, are we paper people or computer people when we do our schedules and time management?
I'm for sure iPhone calendar, shared calendar person. Like everything goes in there, and then it text my husband, this is what's happening, and then my calendar at work is up to date, so I'm definitely electronic.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the same. I need that reminder. I used to do everything on paper, but then if you don't look at the paper, it's worthless, whereas if you've got it on your phone and your computer, something's going to pop up and say, don't forget about this, and I can't live without that.
Yeah, I'm both. I have several calendars that I like run back and forth and check between, and then a paper calendar that I write with different colored pens.
Right. It's kind of fun. I know.
Kind of like it's sort of self-care-ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that time for you. Yeah. I fluctuate. I really got into the planner hype, right? Like where you buy the cutesy planner and the stickers and the pins. And then I just didn't time manage myself well enough to be able to use that planner. So I would say I'm more of a computer-based planner now as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of options there.
So I bought planners. Planners, the cute planners, and I had every intention to use it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy it. I'm going to use it. I'm going to put everything in there. I think I made it maybe halfway through the month of January.
Right.
And it still hasn't been
your thing.
No, I can't just get on it. I don't know why.
I know. I feel like we do, for our students in Give Back, we do give them planners, obviously, and agendas every year because we want them to make sure they're writing everything down. And some of our students, that's like their win, right? Like to be able to have all of that in one place. And now, especially for our high school students, phones have been taken away in the classrooms for a lot of our kids. So
yeah.
Well, and I think too, like as much as we want to teach kids how to organize their time and to like put it down and be visual people, like you can't teach somebody how to actually organize their time.
Right.
Everyone's organizational skills are complete opposite. Like if you look at my desk, I have notes written like
Post-its.
Not even Post-its, just one sheet of scratch paper that has 37 notes and stars all around it, but I know exactly where it is.
You know what it is.
But
I've
if
watched
you
like
Shannon, you've been in my desk, you're like, okay. So like I think just the way you try to teach kids and you try to teach people how to organize their time, but everyone's going to find their own way to do it. So if it's sticky notes or highlighters or putting it in a phone calendar, like just supporting that and telling them like, if this is working for you, like that's great.
Use it.
I think having your own method for keeping track of what you need to do is an important component. But like, I didn't have to cram for tests when I was in college because I had forgot to write down that they were coming.
True.
Contrary to my dreams,
Right.
that I mentioned earlier. But I think it's how do you actually figure out how am I going to prioritize and manage my time?
Right.
Like forgetting something, not writing it down. I mean, that is a problem, and that's a skill you need to learn, is how to track those things. But, you know, I remember graduating from college and thinking, how did we ever get all that done? And then after like 3 weeks in the workforce saying, oh my God, I had more free time than I could ever imagine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the same thing, like when I got to college, you know, I thought high school, I was busy all the time. High school was all free time.
I
right?
know.
I mean, and it just keeps going, right?
Yes.
Like think about, I mean, everybody has different things based on their classes, but when you're in college, you might have 15, 18 hours a week that you're supposed to be in a classroom, right?
Maybe even less.
If you studied 1 hour for every hour that you were in a classroom, that would still be less than a 40-hour week. And once you hit adulthood, like you're working at least 40 hours a week. So
Right.
it's what are you going to do with that time? And for me, like freshman year was, I mean, learning how to play hacky sack was really, really
wow,
important.
that aged
Yeah.
you, my friend.
Frisbee and learn, you know, all those kinds of things, they got prioritized above
100%.
what I needed to do, and they took up the time that otherwise, if I had prioritized it differently, like college would have been a breeze,
Right.
Yeah.
right? But for me, it's I think the biggest challenge, if I can remember back that far, and I have kids who just recently graduated from college, it's that transition.
Yeah.
Nobody is telling you stop playing outside, which, you know, hacky sack 50 years ago, whatever it is today. Nobody's telling you, oh, you shouldn't go waste 5 hours. You should probably
Right.
go stop by the library and read that assignment that'll only take you half an hour.
Right.
And so I think that, you know, a lot of times for young people, it's that transition and having to learn those skills, right? And they're going to be different for everybody. But I think there's a couple things that are real problems that most of us fall into,
Right.
right? And one of those is just that sense of being completely overwhelmed, right? Like, because in most cases, when you're completely overwhelmed, the natural reaction when you're completely overwhelmed is not to say, oh, well, let me start picking away at it, right? No, you're going to be like, I just need a break.
Let me just set a
Yeah.
smart goal
I need a
surrounding
break. I
it.
need to take a
right.
break,
Right.
right?
No,
And
I
so-
agree. Yeah. And I think that like you're talking about, that transition from high school to college in terms of your time management is probably the most difficult piece of
Yes.
it. So that transition from high school to college is obviously difficult for so many reasons. But then I would say time management is probably one of those really big ones because your day is scheduled out, right? Like your day is Monday through Friday, 8 to 3, and then maybe you have basketball practice or whatever, right? But like you know where you're going to be, you know what time you have to be there. It's period 1 through 7 or whatever. Like, is that what's difficult, or do you think it's the oversight that's difficult once you get to college?
I think it's that. Like, I think it's that idea that, like, especially coming from high school when you're like, you know, I was running from the time I had to leave for school at 7 o'clock in the morning until I finished all my stuff, was home, you know, at 7 o'clock at night. Maybe you even have more stuff after that,
Right.
homework, whatever. And then you really are just pretty scheduled out. Then you get to college where you're like, I only have a 10 a.m. class today.
What should I do?
Right, and you walk outside from that 10 o'clock class, it's beautiful outside.
Right. Yeah, I'm
You
gonna
see
lay
a
on the
friend and
quad
it's like,
for
whoop,
a
there's the
while.
day.
There's it. That's
Right.
it. Yeah.
Suddenly it's the next
Right,
day and you're like,
right.
oh my gosh, the
What
10 o'clock
happened?
class is coming
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And I think that's for the people that I remember back who seemed to have it all together, it was they didn't really work that much harder, but they made a point to set aside some time every day to do the stuff that they needed to do. I have a niece who we all thought she was just like going to be college party girl. Went to a big school, joined a sorority, and she's like the queen of the sorority.
Right.
She's also acing pre-med.
Good for her.
Because
She
like
gets it.
Friday is football day or Saturday. Friday's warm up for football. Saturday's football day. Sunday morning when she wakes up, she goes to the library and takes care of things for 8 hours, right? Like that's part of her schedule. No matter what her sorority sisters are saying, no matter what, that wasn't me, right? Like I would decide on Sunday morning, what am I going to do on Sunday?
Right.
Right.
And it was like the Waffle House.
Exactly.
Right? Where you're there all day,
Yes.
you know?
So Shannon, when you're coaching with students, like what do you typically tell them to like carve out of their day? Like how many hours, or is it, obviously it's student dependent, but
Yeah. Well, I'm just getting my first group of students that are going into college right now. So I'm actually really excited to do that with them because that transition is so challenging that I feel like that's a great coaching topic to like sit with them. So be ready, guys.
Right.
That's what we're going to
It's
talk
coming.
about. It's coming. But like, I think even like with my own children and kids that I've known, that's what I always say is that like, that's normal to me is to wake up in the morning and be like, what am I going to do today? But you have to sort of go against your own grain if that's what it is. And you need to look at your week maybe and see.
Yeah.
I think of time management the same as money budgeting because as much as you have, you'll spend.
Right.
So you need to allocate it before so that you are ready to have fun. Then
Yes.
when the free time actually does come up, it actually really is free time. Then.
'Cause
That's
then you
a
can
really
have
good point,
fun.
yeah.
Right. Like you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about like, shoot, I shouldn't be at Thursday.
Yeah, like I'm not
Thursdays.
having a good time
Right.
because, or I'm like have this
In the back
guilt
of my
feeling
brain.
in the back of your head. You should go and have like a great time because you
And really have the great time, right? Like,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
I mean,
Be
whatever,
present with
let's say
it.
that you decide that you want to study 2 hours a day, right? So you
Okay.
figure out, I'm going to go to the class for 2 hours. I'm going to study for 2 hours. You've done your studying for 2 hours. Go have the fun,
Yep.
right? Don't spend the rest of your afternoon worrying about it,
Right.
right? Because then you're rewarding yourself for having done what you said you were going to
Right.
do, right? And then the next day, repeat. I
Right.
think.
well, and Chad, to your point about like, you know, you go outside and it's beautiful out, you're like, oh, my whole day's gone. You know, not that you should stay up till 2 a.m. studying, but like libraries are open late. Like
Yeah.
there's, you know, you can do
You owe
things
that
in-
time now,
Yeah,
like- Mm-hmm.
now you're in debt to your time, so go study for your hour at the library.
Right.
I think another really good thing to think about, I think it would be interesting for us all to answer is what do you prioritize before the things that you have to do? Like what could possibly, or maybe when you were in college, like what would have taken the place of that? And I mean, for me, it was all
Anything.
social stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
anything would have taken the priority.
Anything fun.
Yes,
Yeah.
anything fun. And I think like when we think about like memorable tips, right? Or like things that we can really offer to you in time management, it is so person dependent and it's so difficult because college, again, like we've talked about in all these episodes, it's your time to be selfish. It's your time to learn who you are and what you want to be. But yet you're there for a reason, you know? And so you do have to go to class. You do have to study. You do have to do your assignment. So how do you do it?
I mean, I probably had a little of a non-typical college life because I was a student athlete. So
Yes.
like my schedule in the fall was very much structured around soccer practice, going to class, and then traveling or whatever we were doing. So like the fall was like I didn't have any really additional like social time to do it. And then in the spring, I was told, you know what, you just have to go to the gym. You have to work out 2 hours a day, fit it into your schedule. I don't care when you go, just go and get it
And
done.
the coach could have study hours.
Yeah,
for
and
you.
then like I
Right.
don't think we had study hours. We were pretty smart, so we didn't have study hours.
Good job.
But like in the spring, I was like, I gotta just make sure I can squeeze 2 hours of a day.
Right.
And so like I feel like I made up for fall. But like looking back on it, I'm like, if I actually dedicated more time to like my classes, I would have been such a better student.
Right.
Like I just floated by, did the bare minimum. And going back, like that's probably one of my biggest regrets is like not actually putting more time into my studies, especially because I was paying for it. So
Well, that's the thing. I mean, C's do get degrees. Let's be real, right? Like you will earn your degree.
yeah.
But you also, again, you're paying for it. So you get what you put into it, right? Like you're getting out what you put in. So it is worth learning
Yeah.
because you do have to work after, at hope, you know, unless you are a trust fund baby, which if you are, great, right? But there's very few of us, right?
Yeah.
So I do think it's important that you're enjoying what you're learning and you're actually getting something out of it.
I also think you don't realize, and this is a hard thing when you're young to understand, but it's like down the line that you're going to be like, oh, that English lit class that I took, you know, second semester of sophomore year of college was actually really cool.
It was
and
interesting,
I
yeah.
really was interested in that, and that's something I'm going to circle back to. Or, you know, a lot of colleges like learning to be well-rounded. So
Mm-hmm.
every class that you're taking has a piece in that.
That liberal arts
Yeah,
section.
maybe not chemistry.
I
but-
think on a slightly different, like back to kind of what you were saying, the thing you have to be so careful of, like you can forgive yourself. Like if you do
Right.
mess up a day, if you didn't make it to the gym for 2 hours one day, it's okay to forgive yourself, right? And move on and just reset. We all make mistakes. But what happens is it's easy to get yourself where you're in such a deficit,
Yeah.
It's hard to
right?
pull
Like,
out.
because you can't, if you were supposed to work out 10 hours a week, you can't really do that all on one day, right? So then if you get
can't make
yourself
it up.
too into debt, what happens is psychologically, you switch over into, I just need to avoid this.
Yeah.
And that really is where time management goes off the tracks, right? Like if you, it is when you say, it's too stressful for me to think about, I just need to go escape,
Right.
right? And one of the things that I learned later in life is that the biggest mistake that people make in terms of time management is that they work on other people's priorities. And so when I finally learned this lesson, there were basically 4 categories, right? Like if it's urgent to you and important to you, if you're not taking care of it, that's not a time management issue. That's something else,
Right.
right? Then there's stuff that's urgent to other people, right? But it's not important to you,
Right.
right? But the phone is ringing. They're saying, "Come with me, go do this thing," and that's where most of us go, right? But where we should go, and that's the first mistake, right? Is we work on other people's priorities. What we should do if we have time and we've done the urgent and important is go to the not urgent but important. And I think if you can take 10-20% of your day and do what's important but not urgent, like it changes your whole outlook on
Right.
everything, right?
Yeah.
Because then it's like, oh, I'm sort of ahead of the game, right? I've
Yeah.
got something in the bank.
And it's important to you. It's
Absolutely.
so it's
Absolutely.
It's fun, yeah.
And it's like, but if you spend all your time, if you take care of your stuff, right, and then you're taking care of other people's stuff, then you're stressed out because you've got all this important stuff over here that you're not addressing.
Right.
And the natural human thing when you're stressed out isn't to go, oh, well, let me, walk around the block and then I'll go spend 5 hours
Clear
catching
my
up.
head.
It's like, no, I
Right.
think I need to play video games for a couple
Yeah.
hours, or
Just disappear.
I just need to get out of it. And so that's where people, they go to the time wasters generally from after taking care of other people's priorities. And in college, that's really easy to do because
Yeah.
you've got
100%.
friends who are saying, come do this. You've
Yeah.
got all these, you could have family that's saying, well, I need you to come home for the weekend for something.
Well, and that's a big deal too. And
Yeah.
we talked in the last episode about boundaries, right? And I think boundaries have to be made with your time as well. And there's also things, you need money for college. So most of us work while
Yeah.
we're in school. So you don't only have the social aspect, the academic aspect, but then you're also trying to fit work study or, a job and, things like that in the mix. So that's when you really have to prioritize. Like your job, you can't
Yeah.
just not show up because it's a
No.
pretty day outside,
Or because you got to catch up on the project that you didn't do because you were sitting outside on the pretty day.
And then on top of all of that, you want to have self-care. Which is so important in college. I think that's one of the things we should prioritize the most because again, you have a lot of coming at you. You have a lot of other people's priorities, a lot of other people's things that you're trying to accomplish, friends, and all of that. And so where do you find, what's an easy way to practice self-care, right? Like in terms if you don't have a lot of that time.
I think you can try to double book yourself a little bit. If you're, as you're walking to class, maybe you're listening to a podcast like this one or
Yeah.
a meditation or, I find like sometimes if you're driving in your car on your way to work, that's a great time to let everything be quiet and just think or listen to music that you like, which is also decompressing.
Right.
Whatever your
Ritual
version
is.
of that
Yeah.
is. I think too, like self-care doesn't have to be an hour-long
Expensive spa
experience,
session.
right? It could literally just be like open your journal, write, get some stuff out of your head, close that, and move on to your next thing. I think it's about making self-care habitual and part of your schedule.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when you just know, like for me, I do that every morning when I wake up. That's the first thing I do, whether I'm running late or not.
You journal?
I
Or do
journal
you
and
just
meditate.
Meditate. Okay.
Well, and
So
a
it's
lot
a
of
5-minute thing.
a
You
lot
just
of
do it.
Yep.
a lot of campuses have thrown in like those yoga classes where you
Yes.
can get a credit for taking yoga.
Right.
And it may be a 45 minutes to an hour long class, but you are also
That's a
getting
great
some
combo.
peace and some quiet and a little bit of exercise in. I think there's other ones too, like pottery.
Yep.
You can do
Yeah, I really like that.
there's a lot of different things on campus where you're getting credit for classes. It could be a course filler if you need it to throw in an extra 1 credit hour class. And
And it
book
forces you.
in something
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you enjoy doing and that's going to be fun, right?
Yeah.
Like, and get credit for it. Yeah, I think that's brilliant to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then back to what you were saying, I think for me, one thing that works is I actually will schedule in breaks. So it's like, okay, I've got this big mountain of stuff I've got to get through, but for every 45 minutes that I work, and I'll set the timer on my phone, I then get to go have a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
Right. And that could be whatever it is, right? It might be check the refrigerator. It might be listen to music. It might be whatever, right? Walk around the block. But like, cause then it's not like, oh my God, I have to work on this all afternoon. It's like you look
Right.
down at your phone and you're like, oh, 15 more minutes. I can do 15 more minutes.
That's
yeah.
a really good about scheduling
Yep.
in terms of like alarms on your phone
Yeah.
and stuff.
I love the alarms on
Yes,
my phone.
I have a girl that we work with, and she's neurodivergent, and having those alarms, and she probably has 10 a day, but it's how she manages her time, right? And it's little things like she has an alarm to remind her to feed her cat. Well, if she doesn't do it, she'll forget. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? She's got a million other things on her plate, and she's got a lot of things that are going on.
Yeah.
So use things like that.
Yeah.
Well, and scheduling breaks too, like think about it. Like if you're going to run through the cafeteria and you're just going to grab something and walk to class or walk back to your dorm room, like sit there, have your lunch,
Yeah.
Right.
have your whatever you grab for your snack, sit there for 10, 15 minutes, chill out, and then head back to your dorm room. Like those types of things, again,
Yep.
you can schedule into your day pretty easily
Yes.
without needing to set an alarm or anything like that.
Right.
And a lot of that is knowing yourself. Like, what are those things for you? And if you don't know, then experiment. Like,
Yeah.
what is going to work for you?
Right.
Right. So
Like paper planning.
yeah, and it will be
Experiment.
different for different people. It will be different
Yeah.
for different people. So
Yeah,
don't just try
absolutely.
to imitate what your roommate who seems to have it all together is doing, because that may do nothing for you.
Right.
But if you can figure out something that will work for you and experiment until you do that.
So we
Oh.
do have a student question really quickly from Rob in New Jersey. They ask, what should I do if I can't afford time management resources? Are there free resources on campus that can help me? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like we talked about in a previous episode, like your academic advisor. A lot of colleges and universities now have like success coaches that are
Right.
there. Those individuals are going to really help you schedule your time and make sure that you're setting aside the right amount of hours for studying for those classes. So utilizing those free resources. There's also probably like an academic resource center where you can go in and you can talk with somebody there. There's tons of free things on campus, tons of free resources that you can utilize to be able to schedule your day and time management.
And again, they're underutilized
Yeah.
resources too. You
Yeah.
know, like those success coaches, their whole job is to make sure you do well.
Yeah.
And so use them, schedule an
Yeah.
hour session with those folks. Again, they're trained to help you manage your
Look
time.
at what you're
Yes.
talking about.
They know how much your classes time wise. They're familiar with the campus. They know what's available to you. So absolutely schedule
And hopefully
some time.
they're going to be realistic.
Yes.
Right. Like if you're talking to your parents who are paying the bill, they'll say, well, that's easy. Just go to the library and work for 10 hours and come
Right.
home. That's not realistic.
It's not
right?
realistic.
But
Yeah.
somebody who's on the campus could be like, okay, yeah, you do need to have 8 hours a week for socializing and you need to have this for what. But still, you can see how 2 hours a day you could probably go
Yeah.
swing by the library before you go to dinner.
Well, and like
Yeah.
you said, those success coaches and advisors like know the campus. So
Right.
if you are a type of person who cannot study in a library, even though it's quiet, but there's distractions by people walking around, like that type of stuff. They may say, hey, over here, there's a little quiet nook,
A nook.
that you can sit in that people pass through that has a fireplace, like try that place out. Or if that doesn't work, go sit here in the cafeteria where you can put this area where you can put your feet up and like chill. Like they'll know different places that are suitable for quiet studying
I think
without
you
distraction.
just keep hitting on these gems, right? Like find the place that works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean that's
It might
it.
not
Yeah.
be where you live. It
Yeah.
might not be the library. Library's too quiet for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
If
But
I
find a
studied
place
in
that
my
does
bed,
work.
I'd be asleep in 8 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, there would be no.
Right.
it would
But
be
like
nap
almost
time
every
central.
college campus now has a Starbucks. Like, go put headphones on and you
Yep.
could sit there.
Yeah.
There's tons of different like stop in places, cafeterias, quick grab and goes, like all these nooks and crannies. You just have to find them.
I
Right.
think that's a life skill though too that you're building on because
Yeah.
like you said, like you have to find the thing that's going to work for you and that's going to be like forever. I couldn't study in a library either. Like it's just too quiet. I need a little something else going on. And now like even like when I work from home, like I have to have the music playing or something has to be going on so that I can stay focused on what I'm doing. So a perfectly quiet place would not really work for me still.
A perfectly quiet place almost makes me feel like it's loud.
Yes,
know, like almost
well,
like
my brain gets a
overwhelmed.
little
I was
too
gonna
loud.
say.
I think that's where
My brain starts chitty-chatting. Yeah, agreed.
I think another good resource could be like if you're involved in groups, like whether it's athletics or, Greek life or like squirrel watching club, that you find someone maybe that's a little bit older in your group that could be a mentor. Like maybe they've had that class before, or maybe they are on the same track as you, and just again, being communicative and like, I'm having trouble with time management. Do you have any ideas for me? Because I feel like it's a mountain that once people have sort of made progress on, you're like, oh my gosh, let me show you my journal, like, or let me show you like how I do my calendar, or whatever. Because it's exciting to think that like it worked for me. Let me show you something that might work for you.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because you just brought back up the journal. We sort of started with the journal, but I'm just as you're bringing up these different things, I'm thinking it's not really so much about how do I make sure that I know everything that I have to get done, but the things that we're talking about, finding your space, finding people to help you. It's like, how do I take control and power over the activities that I have to get done? So I'm executing my will on the things around me instead of feeling like everything's coming at me and I don't know what to do. And like, I don't know that I would call that time management.
It's being in control.
But it really is
destiny.
like it is how you, because, we've all heard the thing, we all have 24 hours in a day. So blah,
all
blah,
have the
blah.
same
It's what do you
24
do with it, right?
Right.
And if you're coming at it from a sense of confidence and power, I know how I'm going to get my things done, then it's going to feel very different.
Right.
Absolutely.
And if it feels very different, then you're going to be able to execute very differently. If it feels like, the world's out to get me, then you're back in that stress.
Yeah.
And then you go to the time wasters. If you feel
Right.
like I'm in control. So getting there, that's the journey, right? Because in high school, you're not in control,
No.
right?
Right.
In the fall season when there's soccer, you're not in control, right?
That coach is in
So,
control.
so how do you move yourself into that position of
Yeah.
control?
Well, and we talked about in previous episodes too, like being uncomfortable and not knowing what you're doing. Like this is not going to be something that you are going to figure out in the first week of classes.
It may not
Because-
figure
it
out the first 2 years of
yeah,
school.
Right.
like it's going to
Right.
be something that is a continuous, like you're going to find like, oh, I thought I could study in a library. I can't.
Right.
Okay. I thought I could do this and it's not going to work. I thought I could work 15 hours a week. I need to really work 10. Like it's all, as humans, we all are continuously learning things, we never stop learning. So I think too, like, don't go into this thinking, I've got to figure this out on day one, because it's not going to happen.
Well, like Amada mentioned in a previous
Yeah.
episode, set your expectations appropriately,
Right.
right? Like you don't need to think you're going to walk in and you've determined what your future is going to be, right?
Right.
Like you're in control over that.
Yeah.
So make it your own.
Well, and like I said, you're still learning. So like, I think we talk and it makes it seem like we've got it all figured out and all that, which we don't.
I'm
No.
terrible at time management.
That's why we're the
having those
experts.
Yeah. But like, give yourself grace and just like, you'll figure it out. Like you always figure it out, but
Yes.
don't walk into this thinking you need to like hammer it down on day one, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So we
Yeah.
have another question from Maya in California. What happens if I get sick during college? How do I not let that become a time management disaster? I'm stressed just thinking about it. Will happen. You will
Yeah,
get sick
you
in
will get
college.
sick.
Because college is just a petri dish of disease. It really is. Like if you terms of sharing bathrooms for the first time, sharing your room with someone for the first time, just touching surfaces in a cafeteria, it's just new germs, right? That you're not used to in your home. So you will. And
Yeah.
what should you do? Like if you get sick?
If I got sick on campus and it was something that I couldn't go to class, I would not go to class and I would
Right.
email all my teachers and
100%.
say, hey, listen, I'm not feeling well today. I had to go to the health center. I have the flu, whatever. I'm not going to make it in. And most of them would say, that's fine. Like you can get your assignment or you can make this up. I think the big thing is not communicating.
Yes.
Right.
That's where you're going to
Yep.
struggle and get
If
behind.
you come in a week after being out of class for a week and say, "Oh, I was sick," they're gonna be like, But if you say, "Hey, I woke up today. I'm heading to the thing," I found that the professors were really understanding of
Me
that.
too.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
want you to be successful. They
They don't want you to bring your nasty to
Yeah.
the class.
No.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so much today. With what we've gone through with COVID, there's so much that you can do remotely.
Yeah.
Right. But you still have the problem of you feel awful, so maybe you can't do
Right.
the work right now.
Right.
But I really think if you say, if you say, a week before something's due, can I have an extra couple days because I'm really, really sick?
Yeah.
Probably they'll give it to you.
Well, and we talked about earlier how you build that team, right? Like your community. If you've never talked to a professor before, that they're not going to be as apt to help you, right? Like talk to your professors.
Yep.
They're people. Like they get sick. Be a human, right? Like go talk to your professors, go to office hours early in that year so that when you do come up on something, you're not trying to find your professor's email address. You're not scrambling when you feel awful, right? Like shoot that email out, let them know, and go to the health center early.
Yeah. I think this is another situation where you just plan for this is going to happen to you at some point in the semester. So you have to, just like with budgeting, you have to have a little emergency backup, right? Like, so if you, first couple weeks of class, you're making sure that you've got a relationship built with your professors so that it will be easy to email them when you're sick. And then you are keeping up on your work so that it will be easy to say, I need a couple extra days for this.
Right.
But then also realizing that, like, if you do take those couple extra days that you need, which you have to take them, if you're not feeling well, take them. But you do owe that then.
Yeah.
Like, so your weekend now, your plans just changed.
Yes. Right.
You are now going to catch up on the work that you missed because you were sick that week rather than catching up on maybe the fun stuff that you missed this week.
Well, and there could have been a lot you missed.
You could, on both ends,
sides.
right? Like,
I mean,
so,
a lot of tea can
but that's
happen.
prioritized.
Right.
A lot of tea can happen.
A lot of tea.
But if you get your stuff done, then you will actually find there is time to get the tea in too.
You got to get the tea.
So we talked about like physically sick, like you have the flu, you have COVID, whatever. What about like those cases where it may be more than that, like you're feeling anxious or you're feeling depressed, like you need that mental health supports, like where?
Take it. I think that's the thing too. It's the same as being physically sick. If you're having a really poor mental health day or a mental health week, take that time. And you don't need to explain yourself. Again, you're an adult, you're in control, but you still want to tell your teachers, hey, I'm not feeling the best today. I need a couple of extra days. Go schedule that therapy appointment, go for that walk, take a nap, like however it is that you decompress, you need to do it.
And frankly, that's another life skill that you're going to carry forward with you, because then when you are in the workforce and you do have a day like that and you may need to reach out to your boss and say, I'm going to take a mental health day for myself today. You don't have to tell them why. You don't have to, go into the details, but the communication of like, this is what I'm going to do. I think you're setting yourself up to learn how to do that.
Right.
So it starts right then when you're a grown up. You're a grown up now.
Right.
So take charge of it.
Absolutely. And
it's okay to be human.
It is.
It's okay to give yourself a little grace and to take the time that you need to take, because that little investment's going to make it so that you can do more later. And if you don't take it, it can just get worse and worse and worse.
Well, right. If you don't go to the health center for a cold, it could turn into pneumonia. And the same way, if you don't take that mental health day because you need to recharge, it can become a much larger issue. And we want to make sure that you're nipping that in the bud.
Yep.
Yeah. I think, again, we've talked a lot about, forming that team. Everyone on campus wants you to be successful, from your professors to your success coach to whomever. So talk to them, right? Like reach out, tell about that you're struggling, tell them that you need a little extra assistance. They're going to form that team with you. And I think, again, what we do at Give Back with our student coaches is that's a way to pull that all in, right? Like we want to hear from you. We want to know if you need extra help. We want to know you're going to try paper planning. Great. Like let us know, you can send you an agenda, kind of give you some ideas on how to use that. You want to start setting alarms on your phone. Let's go through your priorities, right? And let's determine what that best is. So how long is that going to take? Like realistically, like when you step foot on campus, like we talked, it could take.
I mean, I'm still working on it.
I know,
I'm
right?
36, so
But I think that's because I think just accept what it is that your life is going to continually change. So first semester you're playing soccer, second semester you're not playing anymore. Change.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
Sophomore year you're taking a super hard class that requires
A lot of
so
extra
much
time.
more of you.
Yeah.
Second semester, not so much. It's okay. It changed. Like your life changes happen. But that is literally, again, all the way up. So you have to continually relook at it, reprioritize it, sit with yourself and figure it out.
Yeah.
But it's figure outable.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you think you're going to figure it all out and it's going to be like in X number of months, I've got it figured out and I have no problems,
Right.
then you're pretending, right?
Right.
Yes.
But I think on the other end of things, like, you shouldn't expect to go through all of your college being completely out of control.
No.
So if you're like, boy, this isn't working, seek out those resources.
Yes.
Right.
Seek out that help that you're
Right.
looking for. I mean, if they give you advice you hate, you can ignore it.
Right.
But like, they might tell you something that's going to be really helpful.
And you don't have to try it all at once.
Right,
Like
right,
if
yeah.
you're not like, oh, I'm going to paper plan and I'm going to set alarms on my phone and I'm going to, write my schedule out. And then you don't have to, that's a lot. Like that's almost more overwhelming than the actual time.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think
give
probably
yourself
like
grace.
your first semester of freshman year, pick something, lean into
Try it.
try it real good.
Yeah. Right.
And then adjust as needed. Then reassess it and just understand that that's okay. You
Yeah.
can change it up if you have to.
And then I think we have one more comment that we've seen in the comment section, which please continue to leave our comments. And actually on this video, if you would leave your best time management
Yeah.
tip, that would be really great. Because I think, again, it's all different people. We want to hear from you kind of what works best. So that would be amazing. But what if you have to drop a commitment? Is that okay?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so hard, but yes.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you have to say no
Right.
and you need to decide. I think the priority thing is the biggest key to that. Like, how are you stacked up? And when you'll see it pretty clearly once you really sit with that and do that, what's not really fitting in here
Right.
anymore.
If you don't give yourself permission to drop something, to fail, right, then you're going to miss out on opportunities, right?
Yep.
Like, I mean, I think it's really important to know when is the drop deadline on a class.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, if you just can't manage the class and
Drop
you're not
it.
getting it done, yeah, you don't have to take the F.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's one of the dirty little secrets that's out there. Like,
Yeah.
there are people, organic chemistry for anybody who wants to
Yuck.
be in pre-med, right? Like, there are literally people who, like, take or audit organic chemistry for 2 semesters
Yeah.
before they take it.
Right.
Right? Or they take it and they drop it and then they take it again, right? And then there's other people who like take it and go, oh, I'm going to fail out of this thing. And then they fail out of it and now their whole
Their
dream
GPA.
is...
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got to give yourself time. And there's ways to make it up. I mean, if you have to be done in 4 years, summer school you can take.
Right.
Summer school you can take extra classes.
And they have winter session, a lot of schools do. And if you take a class and the teacher, maybe you just don't jive with that teacher or that professor, right? Like, there's not just one.
Yeah.
Like, you can, like, if
Right.
your English professor is not your favorite person, drop it, right?
Right.
And take it again with a different professor.
Right.
And I know in previous episodes we talked about like joining clubs and being active on campus. And I think, we probably sound like we're contradicting ourselves a little bit here because it's okay to say no to things. But I think it's just like slowly peppering those activities
Yeah.
in. So like, again, don't get on campus the first day and be like, I'm joining art club, chess club, psychology club,
sorority,
Greek club,
I'm gonna
a
play a
sorority,
sport.
and then I'm gonna do intramurals. Like, don't do that because then you're really not gonna have any time.
Yeah.
But like, get your feet wet, figure out how to get to class, figure out where your resources are, figure out where your people are, and then from there start peppering in those activities and be like, you know what, I think now might be a good time. I've kind of got my classes figured out. I'm gonna join art club.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then if you get through the semester and you're like, yeah, art club wasn't for me, guess what? You can drop it and you
Yeah.
can go pick up another club.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like, it's fine to say no to things.
Yes.
I
it
mean,
is.
it sucks. It sucks as an
And you
adult
kinda
to say
feel
no to
bad,
things and you feel
right?
bad, but like,
just you have to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that goes with the whole thing of like, I hate the word selfish when it comes to stuff like this because I think that's what we think
It
in
has
our
a
head,
negative
like, oh, I'm being
connotation.
so
Right.
selfish. But that is a form of self-care as
It
well
is.
when you're sitting with it and you're like, I do not have time to do all these things, and I'm spending more time being stressed and avoiding the things that I need to do rather than having a
things I
good time
love.
and feeling good about it.
Yeah.
I think I've finally come to a place in my life where like I can confidently say no to something and I was like, I actually don't feel bad about that
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, this is
Yeah.
great. I'm gonna sit on my couch, I'm gonna put my feet up, and I'm gonna do
rot
nothing.
away
Yeah.
in my
Yep.
bed. Right.
Yep.
And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Well, and everyone else on campus also is making that transition from high
Yes.
school
Yes.
to college and figuring this all out. And who knows, maybe you saying, I'm going to drop this commitment is going to help somebody else figure out what they
Yes.
need to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you could really be, it's not necessarily a failure. It could be leadership,
Yeah.
right? I mean, talk it
Spin
through with
that.
your, yeah. I mean, talk it through with people. Don't
Yeah.
drop everything, but you do have to be willing to adjust because life is going to change all the time, and you're going to have to reprioritize all the time.
Yep.
And I think one of the things that's so scary when you're in that age is you think, well, I've got this limited amount of time to figure everything out. we haven't figured everything out,
No.
right? We're still figuring stuff out. So just keep, like you say, just keep improving. Just pick one thing and add it and you try it. So it's really okay to not be perfect.
Yes.
You just want to always be making some progress or trying to make some progress. Maybe you even go backwards, but try to make some progress.
Right.
What's think back to all the people who've helped you in your life. What's probably one of like the best tips you've heard for time management?
I have a therapist that I love to make a list, and then I love to color code my lists, and I'd make a list so I can cross things off of it.
Yes, it's
That's
more fun.
the truth of it.
Right.
So.
Right.
But I was getting overwhelmed because the list was just getting longer and longer, more colors. I needed more pens, and I just couldn't, and so. So she just said, she looked at my list with me. She's like, bring it in. I want to take a look at what you have going on. And we assigned each task like a time thing, because what I was doing was just looking at this massive list of things to do, and it was overwhelming. So then you're like, I guess I can't do anything.
Right.
Then, whatever. Where we assign times to each thing. And now when I look at it, I do that when I make my list. And so I'm like, this is a 15-minute thing. This is an hour thing. So right now I have 15 minutes. So I have these 3 to choose from. I make the choice. I'm still in control. I'm still getting things done. I still get to cross it off, but I'm not feeling that stress, and it helps me stay on task then.
Yeah. I worked for a president of a university, and I worked directly under him, and I was new and fresh and kind of this new director, and I wanted to do everything like right away and get everything done and da-da-da-da-da, and I messed up, right? And he was like, it's okay, it's a hustle mistake. And I use that all the time, like it's a hustle mistake, because I didn't manage my time. I didn't think on it. I just moved forward too quickly, right? And sometimes we do need to sit in and like manage that and not try to do everything at one time and not get completely overwhelmed. And I've kept that with me for years. And like, you have to give yourself grace. You have to give yourself the time to think things through before you just jump into commitments. And so I would say that's a big win for me.
I think for me, the thing that really helped me the most is if I'm looking at a list of things that need to get done, to think about which is the thing that I want to do the least. First of all, make sure it really matters, right? Because maybe you just don't do it, right?
Right.
But if it's something you really have to get done and it feels like it's going to be unpleasant or you're not looking forward to it, I move that to the top of my list and I do it first.
That's a good point.
Because I get that out of the way, now I put a time limit on it.
Yeah.
Right? But I get that out of the way, and then it's like the rest of the day is downhill.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to in the past, it's like, well, what are all the little things that I can do before I get to this? And then again, you're going over to those things that you're doing it just to push it off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mine was somebody told me early is on time and on time is late. And I was like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. And then like as I, grew, I was like, oh, actually don't show up early. Show up 10 minutes early. Show up 15 minutes early. If you show up on time, you're already late, because then whatever you have to do to prepare, you're 10 minutes behind. So that's been something that I've just carried with me, always early.
You are always early.
I'm always early.
You're very good at that.
And I married somebody who's consistently late.
That's so pleasant.
And it is just that's just how our thing is. So we're always late to everything.
I'm sure you love that.
Yeah, it's
You
great.
walk into every room. It's not my
Yeah, that's exactly the first thing I say. I'm
not
like, this guy over here.
Right. It's this guy. Well, I think what's great about this episode and what's great about this podcast is that we're learning kind of not only how to be successful in college, but how to be successful through life, because these are the things that you're going to continue to carry with you. And at Give Back and our coaches, I think what's really great about that is that we can come together with you and start building those plans early. So even in 8th and 9th grade, we're already planning for that need to have time management, that need to find your resources, because it is very different person to person. And so please reach out to us here if you have any questions. Again, in the comments, feel free to list your best time management tip, because we really want to learn from you and you all can learn from each other. And go to our website. Look us up. If you want to meet with a coach, if you want to have some one-to-one time, feel free to do that. We're really excited to meet with you and chat with you. So thank you all for being here today.
Thank you.
All right.
Our coaches at Give Something Back are here as a resource to help guide you through your college journey. To contact us with any questions you might have or to apply to a Give Something Back program, go to giveback.ngo and fill out the form at the bottom of our homepage. Additionally, You could DM us through Instagram or through Facebook, or you could email us at info@giveback.ngo. We look forward to hearing from you. We'll see you next time.